Ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the Egyptian economic file in general. This in light of the recent visit by the Bahraini King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. Also, this is following the obvious visit by Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz. Also, the United Arab Emirates has pledged $4 billion to the Egyptian economy, $2 billion for the Egyptian Central Bank, also $2 billion for the investments. We're also going to shed light on the promises and the pledges made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi yesterday, marking the Sinai Liberation Day. But before we start our discussion, let's welcome our distinguished guest here in the studio, Mr. Nader Khedr, the investment and economic analyst. Mr. Khedr, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion, let's check out this report regarding the Egyptian-Bahraini bilateral relations, and we'll be right back to begin our talk.
Persian Gulf War in 1990-91, Bahrain was part of the coalition that fought to liberate Kuwait. Bahrain and the USAF pilots flew strikes in Iraq from the Sheikh Isa Air Base, while coalition navies operated out of Manama, the capital. Bahrain was hit by Scud missiles fired from Iraq. A number of Bahraini students studying in Iraq and Kuwait at the outbreak of hostilities went missing and are presumed the victims of Saddam Hussein's secret police. After the liberation of Kuwait, Bahrain and the United States strengthened their already good ties by signing a 10-year agreement in October 1991, which guaranteed American forces access to Bahraini facilities and allowed the U.S. to pre-position war material for future crises. In 1995, the U.S. Fifth Fleet was established in the Gulf with its headquarters at Bahrain in Manama. In 2003, U.S. President George W. Bush at the time designated Bahrain as a major non-NATO ally. Bahrain was an active member of the coalition that fought to remove the Taliban regime from Afghanistan in 2001. The kingdom provided ships for the naval cordon in the Indian Ocean put in place to intercept fleeing Taliban and Al-Qaeda fighters. However, the kingdom opposed unilateral action against Iraq in 2003 and to the annoyance of Washington in the run-up to the war sought to defuse the crisis by offering Saddam Hussein asylum as a way of avoiding war.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and also now we are joined here in the studio by Mr. Wael Nawwara, the political analyst. Mr. Nawwara, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First off, Mr. Khedr, now this visit by the Bahraini king to Egypt promised a lot of investment opportunities and trade relations between both countries. Now, this is becoming a theme, really, the investment and the economic cooperation between a lot of Arab countries and Egypt. We've seen the Saudi-Egyptian cooperation. Also, we've learned about the United Arab Emirates economic support to Egypt, and now the Bahraini king also has pledged a lot of financial and economic support and promises of investment.
You forgot the French.
And the French as well, but like we're now focusing on the Arab countries in general. So we have been talking for a while saying that maybe we don't really need a lot of financial support and financial aid, and this phase has really been about the few years during the revolution, but it doesn't seem to stop till then. And we are signing a lot of agreements, trade agreements and memorandums of understanding. Is this the right direction that Egypt is going towards actually boosting its economy?
Actually, before we talk about this, we have to go a couple of steps back, seeing what we have done and what we are presenting the Arab countries and the world to have all this support and all this investment appetite coming to Egypt again. During the period throughout 2003 to 2008, we have been the emerging economy that has been recording over 5% in Africa and in Latin America, GDP growth rate. In 2008 till 2011, after the financial crisis have hit all the world and most of the world started crunching in negative numbers regarding its GDP growth rate, we have been recording positive growth rates. We, India, China, Brazil, Argentina, and many other developing economies. Yet, excuse me, since 2011 upheavals till 2014 or 2015, mid-2015, we didn't record any negative growth rate except for 2 quarters in 2011, although all these upheavals and events that we have been going through over the past 5 years, which means we have a resilient economy, well-diversified economy, of course, big market that gives the capability of surviving for this economy. During the past 3 years, we have witnessed a couple of group mega projects groups that has been launched. One of them in the infrastructure sector, the new roads network that has been deployed by President Sisi since he was inaugurated. This sector, the infrastructure sector, stimulates directly or moves directly 37% of our GDP or our economy, which means more than the third of the country is finding jobs. And stimulates indirectly another 40%. Transportation, cement industry, equipment, services, all other logistics and other things. So we are talking about a project, the road networks, that stimulates 70%, over 2/3 of our economy has been working during a period. The head of the IFC witnessed it and described it as the beginning of a global recession. So we are having a huge flow in our economy. The second group of projects that we had launched is the new Suez Canal, of course, and the Suez Canal corridor industrial zones. We have 3 industrial zones: the new Ismailia, the Sharq Tafriya, east of Port Said, and the Suez Gulf, developing west of Suez Gulf coast, which is dedicated, according to my knowledge, to the heavy industries. So you are having a great landscape for investment that you are establishing it, preparing it, giving it infrastructure. So the corner of the world is having a place to sit your foot in. Will you give it away?
No.
Of course not. So this is what explains why the Arab countries and the European countries are, sorry for the expression, but they are actually drooling to come and invest in these projects. Our problem was the coordination, the logistics. What's our laws, what's our steps, what's our red tape, what's our regulations for it. That has been being prepared during the past few weeks, along with the new cabinet, especially with the Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Finance, and the presidency. This is why we see the President Sisi is present in each and every bilateral agreement signed by the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, Ministry of Investment. So to be sure that the coordination for these huge projects that's set to boost the economic growth of Egypt and start the recovery for all the bleeding that has been happening during the past 5 years.
Yes. Well, Mr. Nawwara, a lot of attention is being paid towards the economic side of these visits and the agreements, but also there's a lot of maybe subtext of military and political cooperation. Maybe not even subtext, it's quite obvious as well. There's a lot of talk about combating terrorism quite bluntly, and there's talk about military cooperation and talking about hopes of maybe forming a coalition to protect the Middle East region against many threats, whether if it's Daesh or Iran or whatever. How do you see these series of meetings and visits between all these leaders and President Sisi, and this talk about other than the investment and the economic cooperation, but also the political understanding and the military cooperation and the prospects of these sort of cooperations taking place practically in the near future?
I think that the Arab countries realize that Egypt is a cornerstone of stability in the region, and collapse of Egypt economically would mean collapse of Egypt politically as well, and could lead to a chain reaction of collapse of other states in the region in a time where, in a very delicate time, where already we were having several states which are either failed states or are suffering from civil wars inside. So I think that what we have seen, not just now, but remember since July 2013, the amount of foreign cash injected into the Egyptian economy was huge. And I think it was mainly because of this, because the Arab countries realized that Egypt was on the brink of economic collapse, and they wanted to help to prevent that kind of chain reaction. However, I come back to your question, when will this stop? I think that unfortunately we have been spending this foreign cash unwisely. We have wasted a lot of cash trying to support the Egyptian pound at a high rate, and although it is unpopular to have a high US dollar and a low Egyptian pound, I think that is the only way, in fact, to stabilize the economy, because otherwise we just continue injecting foreign cash into subsidizing imports, and in the same time when you subsidize imports, in fact you fight domestic production. You fight domestic production, we're not even talking about exports, but you fight domestic production's opportunity to sell in the local market, because suddenly you are subsidizing imports from Italy or China or other countries. And it just continues on and on, month after month. The central bank injects cash, which should have been directed in long-term projects rather than just to subsidize a low dollar. So I think that we have a major problem, and this has not only started in 2011. This, in fact, has been since the GATT signing, because once we signed the GATT in the middle of the 90s, you start to remove the import barriers. And in fact, if we had taken an approach of lowering the Egyptian pound to empower Egyptian exports, to empower competitiveness, price competitiveness of Egyptian industry, unfortunately we just relied on foreign remittances from Egyptians working abroad, tourism and other, oil or Suez Canal revenue, which meant we were in fact ignoring the industrial sector and ignoring also the service sector, which was capable of exporting.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously the presidency is very active with its two-way visits between the Arab leaders and the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, also the European leaders as well. And President Sisi actually came out yesterday in his release regarding the Sinai Liberation Day, and he marked the promises and the pledges that he made as a president to the Egyptian nation. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Fattah al-Sisi said he's committed to his responsibilities as president, calling on the people to preserve the constitution, the parliament and the government. During a televised address, President al-Sisi said that some people are trying to harm the security and stability, stressing that it is necessary to assure
the people, that preserving them is the responsibility of the state police and the armed forces. Sisi warned of those he called forces of evil who want to harm state institutions. He noted the armed forces and state institutions appreciate the importance of preserving national territory, saying he has not and will not relinquish a single grain of Egyptian soil. Sisi also stated he was asking military forces to assist in regulating the cost of basic goods, which have been increasing as a result of the exchange crisis, with the dollar rising against the pound on the black market. In this respect, the president spoke about steps to deal with the US dollar crisis. He promised the government will calculate inflation based on a point system and has plans to distribute £2 million worth of basic commodities across low-income areas in the coming months. Sisi stated that the military is working on development projects in Sinai, including 17 industrial projects and 13 agricultural initiatives, adding that they will dig tunnels between Suez and Sinai to transfer water to the peninsula. He said restoring Sinai by war and negotiations represents a magnificent epic manifestation and manifesting the importance of preserving Egyptian lands. The head of state emphasized that the state has managed to rebuild its institutions in 30 months and reiterated that it is the duty of the people to protect them. Egypt saw the pound drop by over 14% of its value against the dollar last month, and the CBE raised interest rates by 1.5 percentage points days after the devaluation to combat inflation. The country's annual headline inflation eased for the third consecutive month to 9.2% in March 2016.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Resuming our discussion now, Mr. Khedr, the president has been promising a lot of economic upsurge in Egypt, and we saw that over the past period with the expansion of the Suez Canal, the economic conference that was held in Sharm el-Sheikh, all the economic cooperations and the agreements, memorandums of understanding signed between France and Egypt, also Russia, China, a lot of Asian countries, a lot of Arab countries. And you also spoke about the GDP that has been recording a lot of positive numbers, 5% and even more since 2003 and 2008, and even during the revolution we only recorded negative 2.2 for 2 quarters in 20.
Negative 0.1, negative 1.7 for a quarter, negative 1.3 for the first 2 quarters after the revolution, and after that we have started to record 2.2, 2.7, 3.2, and this year we are looking at 3.8 to 4.3% growth rate.
So we are talking about a very resilient economy in the face of political instability, global financial and economic recession, all of these things, plus the financial aid and support coming from many different countries. So why is it not really felt in the Egyptian street? Why is it not? Why are we not seeing the fruit of the expansion of the Suez Canal, the fruit of the economic conference that was held? All of these things. Why are we not feeling it so much? Why do we always have to wait for the armed forces to actually support the Egyptian economy and really help produce a lot of the basic commodities to help the hike in prices?
Okay. Let's talk about the new Suez Canal first, and why we are not seeing it reflecting in our revenues in dollar terms. During the past year, there was a crisis over the world regarding the oil prices. The prices dropped from over $100 per barrel to lower than $28 per barrel, nearly over 90% drop.
72%.
72%. I'm talking from the $140.
Still from maybe
okay.
75%.
We are talking about a huge drop. If you looked at the report that has been issued 5 weeks ago regarding the transportation agencies across the globe, they were recommending the vessels that transport containers and other importing commodities to exchange the Suez Canal route by the Cape of Good Hope route. Why? Because even with the excess use of gasoline and lower price, it's still cheaper than passing through and paying the fees to pass through the Suez Canal. Accordingly, we have lost over 70% from our cargo that's passing through the Suez Canal route. I'm not talking about number of vessels. Number of vessels is almost the same. However, the cargo and the weight of the cargoes has dropped. So this is why we're not seeing it.
And that would change with the rise of the oil.
Exactly. As oil prices still below $48 per barrel to $51 per barrel, we will keep losing our cargo weight in the Suez Canal. And it's already going through to pass this phase. It's nearly $45 per barrel today, and this gives us a little bit of hope during the coming period. Also, after the incidents that has been happening during the past year regarding the tourism, which contributes by nearly 38% of our dollar income, especially the Russian tourism and the Asian tourism, this explains why we have seen such the drop that happened. I'm not saying that everything is rosy or everything is black. No. What I'm saying is there are circumstances. We are a big economy playing with the big players across the globe. Accordingly, we will be affected. We have been affected by the oil price and its drop. If not negatively, directly, we have been impacted by it through our revenues from the Suez Canal. Also, the tourism, we have been impacted by the upheavals that has been going through the international powers over the seas, and this also impacted us. Also, among the points, why don't we have the feeling of the fruits of such efforts that has been done? We're talking about projects that need people who are seeking its fruits, not people who are waiting its fruits. If you talked with any of the labor who goes day by day in the infrastructure and in the construction sector, he would tell you that he might be doing double or triple his income. However, the increase in prices due to the hike in dollar
is cancelling
it out. So we are having the circumstances that pushing the Egyptian pound lower and lower, and this might be a mistake in dealing with it, might be international circumstances, might be whatever the reason, but it's a problem and we are facing it. And by the way, I'm very optimistic about it, because as soon as the oil prices hike up over the 51 level, I'm expecting that the Egyptian pound or the US dollar would have the negative direction to head to 6.25 per US dollar. I know this might be a little bit loony here, but I have been saying this for over 2 months, for over 3 months now, and I'm still saying it. I'm seeing the US dollar is heading to be 6.25 Egyptian pounds, and to be lower than that in the coming years. The period to achieve this range of the US dollar might be by the end of this year or by the mid of the next year. However, the direction is set to be started or estimated to be started in the second half of this year. Why is this? As I was saying, the revenues from the Suez Canal to start getting after the oil prices hike. The tourism started to come back to our main touristic locations. Bilateral agreements for investment in the 3 regions I have mentioned earlier. All this is set to give us the capability to fight the crisis of the dollar. But however, for the time being, we are having this problem. We cannot escape it. We have to pay the price for our development.
Yes. Well, we'll talk more about the dollar later on, but Mr. Nawwara, now, the President spoke of a lot of challenges and forces, whether outside of Egypt or inside of Egypt, trying to break down the country. Now, we can understand what he's talking about in terms of the political life or the political institutions here in the country, but do you also feel if all of the factors that Mr. Khedr mentioned is affecting the economy, outside factors mainly, would you say that there is serious threat and challenges and forces coming from within the country that are trying to destabilize the country politically and economically as well?
I think, yes, I think that you're right in saying that. There is a small group of dissent, but they are quite influential, quite loud, and also, you know, that the Muslim Brotherhood and their supporters, although again they're a small minority, but still they exist, and I think they managed so far to drag us into a war of attrition. I totally disagree with my colleague that the price of oil would, if the price of oil goes up, would positively affect the economy. I think it does not have that great effect. I think what can affect the economy, indeed, is stability. If we have stability, because the major problem we have is from tourism. Egypt, in fact, is a net importer of oil products. So an increase of the price of oil products, in fact, is a big problem for us, and a big problem for the subsidies, for the energy subsidies. The Egyptian government subsidizes energy, and this energy, even most of the energy, is coming from fossil fuel stations. So in fact, we have felt the reduction in the subsidies since the price of oil collapsed. It's true that it will reflect positively on the Suez Canal, but that it will not be. The net effect, in fact, will be negative. But what will be positive for sure is the stability. So if we, I think, if we have some kind of a political initiative to try to contain one way or another, to contain at least, I will not say the Brotherhood, because they have ideological reasons not to reconcile, maybe now, maybe in the future they might change, but at least to try to reconcile some of the other groups of dissent. And I think that some of the moves, I think, for example, the issue of the islands, the Sanafir and Tyr Islands, they were really, even if they are correct legally, in the international law. I'm not debating this now. I'm just saying that the handling of this issue politically, I think, was not the best handling at a time when we really need stability. We do not need to give. Let us agree that we have some people who are trying to break or weaken the state institutions. We should not give them the opportunity to do so. We should not make this kind of decisions or without public consensus or without public debate. We have to realize that in a society like ours, especially after these revolutions, I think we need to take the public opinion very seriously. We need to calculate every political step. We need to think of all of these mega projects, so-called mega project, because remember, these projects, at the end of the day, there is an opportunity cost. You invest in one project 100 billion Egyptian pounds, and then you have to think, if we invested that kind of money in another project and delayed that project, that's a way to think in economy. We don't have unlimited resources so that we can explore all the mega projects that can be done. We have to prioritize, and we have to prioritize the projects which can bring cash quick, and the projects which have least risk, which are least affected by factors as terrorism, for example, or prices of oil or other commodities. This is, but going into a national project and spending 100 billion Egyptian pounds, and after that saying, okay, it didn't bear fruits because of this and that. It just basically means that there was a problem in the studying of such a project. It was announced prematurely. It was made a promise to be completed in 1 year, which increased the cost of its implementation. All of these things, I think, are mistakes, but we need to look to the future. We need not to repeat these mistakes. We need to be more to really look for the factors which can cause political instability in our country, because that what will bring tourism, that what will bring investment. Believe me, whenever there is a small explosion somewhere and it comes in the news, investors, tourists, and so on, it is badly affected, negatively affected.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, also there is the very big financial support that has been pledged by the United Arab Emirates worth $4 billion to the Egyptian economy. A lot of agreements, a lot of efforts to also work on the value of the Egyptian pound against the dollar. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan has pledged $4 billion to boost Egypt's economy. Sheikh Khalifa has ordered $2 billion of investment in Egypt and will deposit another $2 billion in the Egyptian Central Bank to increase its foreign reserves. The announcement comes a day after Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan visited Egypt. He said the money is aimed at promoting development in Egypt, which has a pivotal role in the Middle East region. Earlier this month, Egypt and Saudi Arabia signed a pact to set up a 60 billion Saudi riyals investment fund. At the Sharm el-Sheikh conference in March 2015, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia each also offered $4 billion to Egypt. Meanwhile, the Minister of Tourism, Yahya Rashid, said that the vital tourism sector is to rebound by the end of next year. He added the government is continuing to talk with its Russian counterparts over resuming flights to Egypt. Minister Rashid noted that visitor numbers to Egypt fell by 40 to 45% in the first quarter compared with the same period a year ago, whilst tourism revenue has fallen by 60%. He added that the country is targeting 12 million tourists in 2017 under a new 6-point plan, though expects about 10 million. He added that whilst overall visitor numbers are falling, visitors from the Arab Gulf have increased by 50% in the first quarter, mainly from Saudi Arabia.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Khedr, going back to the economic side of things. Now, the United Arab Emirates pledged $4 billion. $2 billion will go to the investments, whether if it's going to go to the energy sector or the infrastructure or trade agreements or free trade zones or whatever that may be. $2 billion will be given to the Egyptian
central bank.
The central bank, exactly, to help push down the American dollar, stabilize the American dollar. Now, there's a lot of playing with words and terminology. A lot of people are saying, well, we are devaluing the Egyptian pound. People are saying, no, we are floating the Egyptian pound. Many different points of view. A lot of people are saying, no, we need the dollar to be quite high, and we need to have these austerity measures, and we need to tighten the belt because we need to go through it. And a lot of people are saying, no, we want the dollar to go down. We can't really import enough. A lot of businesses are going out, hiking prices. Which direction should we go to and why?
Before we talk about this, I would like to clarify a couple of points first. The way that the foreign exchange rate is to be calculated in any economy is hypothetically set through how much is your GDP versus the measuring unit GDP you are weighing your currency to. The big mistake, in my opinion, that has been happening during the past 35 years here in Egypt, that we have committed our Egyptian pound after the failure of the gold base and the cancelling of the gold base valuation policy from the US by the US dollar. We should have established a basket of currencies and starting valuating our Egyptian pound according to our exports and imports from and to this countries, currencies countries. Accordingly, we are currently set to value our Egyptian pound to only one currency. So if the dollar is weak, and we are weaker than the dollar, so we will be weak across the globe. Even if we are exporting more than we are importing to Europe, or to China, or to France, or wherever, we will be also weak. This is the big mistake that has been happening.
Then why are we not using this measuring method?
Actually, to do such technique, you have to build a foreign reserve of all these currencies. And this was a privilege that we were deprived of it during the period of the 80s and 90s due to the IMF program, the restructuring, Paris Club recommendations, blah, blah, blah. All this economic hasslements that we have been living over the past 50 years. Coming back to the issue of the dollar currently, yes, the opinion of my colleague is right. Of course, if we are having a high dollar, that means lower prices for our exports, so we can export more, that we could improve our national production, that we could stabilize many things regarding the national producers and domestic producers. However, the dollar price is like a plate over a small rock, like a roulette. If you support it someplace more than the other, the plate will flip. Accordingly, you have to stabilize it. We cannot bear a very high dollar or a very low dollar. We have to reach the precise price of the US dollar against the Egyptian pound. Yes, we are subsidizing our energy, and the subsidy is being lifted over 5 phases. 3 of them is done, 2 of them is left. Most of the subsidized energy comes from fossil fuel that we import, of course, but we are importing processed oil products, not plain oil products. Accordingly, in our trade balance, we export all our oil production. We nearly produce around 870,000 barrels per day. All of them is being sold according to the international prices on the spot. However, when we import processed oil products, we import them according to contracts being done every 9 months in forwards, which means the gasoline I put in my car today is being priced in the contract and being paid by the government according to the price of nearly $98 per barrel. So this is why we are being affected negatively by the drop of the oil prices. This, of course, represents a burden. Imports, high expense. Accordingly, as an Egyptian pound, you are having a load on it. So it has to be devaluated. As you were mentioning, a lot of terminologies, a lot of words being said. According to our economic studies, there has been no floating. We haven't floated the Egyptian pound yet. If you floated the Egyptian pound, each day we would find a new price according to our production against the American production in our banks. Okay, and this is not happening. We have devaluated our Egyptian pound due to the pressure and the burdens we are having, due to the retreating of the international reserve, which, by the way, after this $2 billion, sorry, we will be barely even at the zero level of foreign reserve. I'm talking about the net foreign reserve, not the calculated foreign reserve. The calculated foreign reserve, yes, we are having nearly 16 billion or 17 billion US dollars in the central bank. But if you subtracted deposits, commitments, payments, loan services, imports for 3 months, you would find yourself currently, after this 2 billion, nearly 0.7 billion US dollars.
Yes. Well, Mr. Nawwara, do you feel that maybe it's a long shot? We understand that a lot of it is really based on the prices within the energy sector, whether if it's abroad or here, whether if we import them or export them. Now, with findings such as the natural gas that we found off our coast in the Mediterranean, and a lot of people are talking about big prospects for finding a lot of natural resources and energy within the Red Sea now after the 2 islands belong to Saudi Arabia. We will have the right to actually do a lot of exploration on our side of the sea.
The Saudi Arabia will be having the rights, not we.
Well, they're going to have the rights on their side, and we're going to have the rights on our side.
We will be having a 25% net of the international findings that the Saudi Arabia and the international companies will be finding there.
Okay.
We cannot explore there, we cannot drill there, we cannot do any activities according to Camp David agreement.
Okay, so 25%, quarter of whatever Saudi Arabia finds. Do you feel that this on the long run at least could stabilize things? I mean, we will not have to worry too much about the issue of the value of the Egyptian pound against the dollar, or will this be the next theme for the next 20 years?
I think that we really need to have a hard look at ourselves in the mirror. The Egyptian people have been really having a huge appetite for imports. And for spending foreign cash in many ways, in international schools, and sending children to learn to study in foreign universities, to the cars, to all of these condominiums you're seeing with all the luxurious items. I think we as Egyptians, we really need to restrain ourselves, and the best way to do that is through the correct exchange rate. I think that we need to set an exchange rate which would be inducive and encouraging to Egyptian industry locally and in export, and at the same time will restrain to some measure this huge appetite for imports. We need to see the government injecting instead of subsidizing imports. In fact, the government should subsidize research and development, should subsidize the Egyptian industries, at least in terms of innovation, in terms of capacity building, in terms of access to foreign markets, to try to solve this problem without generating value for the global economy in terms of exports, in terms of services, in terms of innovations. We will be doomed to wait for all of these miracles. This, finding gas, or
yes.
Okay, it's a nice thing to find gas, but what if you don't find gas?
Yes.
We need to work on sustainable items.
Quick question, because we're running out of time. Since the hike of the value of the American dollar against the Egyptian pound, do you feel that we took a turn in the right direction?
I think we still need to do more. I think it was a turn in the right direction, but I think we need to do more and balance that with some social measures, because as you said, the prices will go up. You need to support that sector of the economy, the society which cannot afford these hikes.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, still a lot of developments are taking place, and we will be following up the developments of at least the value of the American dollar against the Egyptian pound, also in light of the $2 billion being pumped into the Egyptian Central Bank by the United Arab Emirates. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Mr. Nader Khedr, the investment and economic expert. I'd also like to thank Mr. Wael Nawwara, the political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.